Hello!
Assalamu alaikum.
Welcome back to Dastan Kiki Special Edition Batman.
I am Master Sahab.
I am the Doctor, also known as the Bat. And we are back with our second episode of Batman's adventures across the DC universe.
All right, so DC Universe it is.
So
now we're gonna go through.
Yeah, let's give like a quick recap. We spoke about Batman's origin. We spoke about what influenced Batman. We spoke about the best Batman iteration on TV, and now we're gonna talk about the best Batman comics.
All right, so let's start.
Take it away, Master Saab.
All right, so obviously Batman made his first appearance in the Head of Comics 27 and whatnot, and we've already touched upon the golden
And
age of
everybody
Batman.
knows that, yeah.
So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna cover Batman very briefly, their important storylines from the 80s onwards.
Yeah.
So in my opinion, the three most important Batman storylines in the 80s were the Dark Knight Returns,
Yeah.
which everybody pretty much knows about now since it's straight back.
I
It's
know,
been
yeah.
in reprints over and over.
And I know people who have never read a comic, but they have been like, "Oh, so what do you mean by comic?" And I'm like, comic is like, "Oh, so the Dark Knight Returns, is that what a comic is?" I'm like,
Oh,
yeah.
you mean like a graphic novel? Because
Like-
it's okay to read a graphic novel, but not a comic.
It's Crowleyan magic.
So the thing with Dark Knight Returns is that, and it was also one of the bigger influence on the new movie, the Batman versus Superman.
yeah.
Is it Superman
it
versus
was
Batman, or is it Batman versus Superman?
It's Batman versus Superman.
All right.
Because obviously Batman comes first.
So we're now going to talk about the other two. Death in the Family. Now, Death in the Family, we're going to talk about more simply because they haven't made a cartoon on it and they haven't made a movie on it, so people know less about it.
Yeah.
And that's the comic in which Robin dies.
This is my favorite 1980s Batman comic. It has its funny, stupid moments, but the Superman Batman confrontation, oh my god!
Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was interesting. So, a quick recap for those who don't know. So, Death in the Family was.
I don't know, should we give spoilers or.
I'll do a non-spoiler version.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no
is-
spoiler in saying
there
Robin
is-
dies in it.
Yeah, well, hold on. Everybody, there has been not a loyal adaptation, but people have done it, like in the new Batman video game, Arkham Knight.
All right.
Yeah,
People have
yeah.
mentioned, but the actual comic itself hasn't.
Yeah.
But what's more famous now, I guess, is that after so many years, we've had that Robin return in the guise of the Red Hood, and maybe people know about that more now. But generally speaking, for example, the other important influential comic, in my opinion, being The Killing Joke, is something that people everybody suddenly knows about that one.
Yeah.
Oh, and I read it, but that's because they brought a cartoon out.
Yeah.
But Death in the Family is not,
And because it's written by Alan Moore.
and it's not. Yeah,
Because it's literature, man. This is not comic. What do you mean?
it's Alan Moorian magic. So Death in the Family is very simply what it was, and this is not a spoiler. Is the comic in which Robin dies.
And I think thoda backstory about this is that Robin dies because the readers actually hated that Robin.
Exactly. So what's interesting is the following. So people really did not like the second Robin that much. So this is the second
Because
Robin we're talking about.
the first Robin had graduated. He was like his own man now, and he was now going.
So the
with
second
name of
Robin,
Nightwing.
Jason Todd, was not a very popular character, according to many books. And so when Death in the Family happened, he actually literally died because of the readers. Because what they did is they had set up a phone line in which by issue 3, you call in with a yes or a no vote of whether he should die or not. And apparently people wanted him to die.
It was like a unanimous decision. But an interesting thing, Master Saab, is it just popped into my head. There is no subtle differences between Jason Todd and Damian Wayne. They're the same characters, but people love Damian Wayne right now.
That is true. Well, Damian Wayne I guess maybe that character works for this time.
I think
and
it just goes to show how people have, as in, we were kids back then when this comic was coming out, and there are kids who are reading Batman comics now who love Damian Wayne, who love it that he stands up against Batman and he's always fucking around.
And he's rude, and he's
Kill him, man! Kill him!
Well, he did die and he did come back. Damian Wayne as well. But yes, but let's put it this way. So he might not have been the first Robin, but he was the first to die.
Yeah.
Many Robins have died afterwards.
Die, Robin,
But what's
die.
very interesting is this. So there was a documentary on Batman. There were many at that point, in which some person from DC offices actually went there and said, and we found out that there was this one guy somewhere sitting who had actually programmed his phone to call that number after every 5 minutes. So it is also possible there's one because of one person that Robin eventually died. So Robin died, but for me, the highlight of that comic and that's what excites all of us, because when we see something that's related to our region and our context, we get excited. When like you're reading a comic and suddenly, I don't know, the Avengers, somebody mentions Pakistan, we get excited.
Whoa! The first time that happened in an Animal Man comic in which Superman was like, I just came back from Pakistan.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, whoa!
So what happens is, not just to mention, Iran played a big part in the death of the family, right? And because of even what the political situation was then at the time in the real world.
So Iran killed Robin.
But what was very interesting is when you suddenly turn the page and the Joker gets shit scared because he comes face to face with Ayatollah Khomeini. And I was like, whoa! And for me, I was like, well, obviously, I did not like it at the time as a kid, my Muslim identity, what you're talking about. But nonetheless, what's interesting is, the Joker is like, oh my God! And there's Ayatollah Khomeini. And then the craziest thing happens. Ayatollah Khomeini says, we have a lot in common, Mr. Joker. I'm making you the official ambassador of Iran.
and he gets away with Robin's murder because he's a diplomat.
Yeah, and his diplomatic immunity.
And Superman's defending his right as a diplomat.
Then Superman comes in and tells Batman, I know what he did, but you can't go after him. He's got diplomatic immunity.
But it sounds stupid, but at that moment when you're reading it, you're like, oh fuck. I mean, that was the time. That was our version of Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
Think about it.
And and that's when Batman vs Superman really started, because this was after Crisis on Infinite Earths, in which John Byrne basically said, then this reboot version, Batman Superman aren't old friends that don't really get along. That was retcon again.
Yeah.
And then that was retcon again, but at that point. So that was that was happening. So that was the three influential comics. Killing Joke.
Yeah, but I was just about to ask you, like in this comic, Joker literally beats Robin to death with a crowbar. But this did not redefine Joker as the big bad scary.
It didn't.
All it took was one bullet to redefine him as the big bad scary mofo of DC Comics.
He was always the clown prince of crime, right? But it wasn't.
But he was never the scary clown prince of crime.
That happened with the Killing Joke.
So it just goes to show, man, the way you write something, the way you lay out the panels, it just changes it. So
and what's interesting is then it also retroactively changes it, in which the next generation then actually think that's how the Joker is and always has been. Same goes with the Batman. And so Killing Joke is pretty much one of those comics which changes changes the Joker.
Yeah, it does.
And of course, a lot of people now know the Killing Joke because recently we had a animated
show, which was terrible.
Yes, it was. It was terrible. But the comic was, and I had. Unfortunately or fortunately, I read The Killing Joke as a young boy, and I will tell you, it had an effect on me. It was very disturbing. The fact that we had stupid parents who did not care about age appropriate. That comic was not appropriate for the age. In fact, I don't know if it had a label at that time, mature readers, but
it was released as a graphic novel. It wasn't released as a single issue thing, which is
unlike
one
The Dark
of the
Knight
reasons,
Returns or The Death in the Family, which was then later collected as a trade. This was originally just a one-shot graphic novel. And
I don't know if correct me if I'm wrong. The ex-Joker of your life stole that original copy of yours, the ex-girlfriend or something.
The Killing Joke?
The Killing Joke? Was it The Killing Joke or was it...
I'm Master Saab and Dr. Saab. We have no personal life outside.
Okay, so moving on. Let's go to the era that we...
Well, actually, that was another comic. I'll tell you who did stole it.
Who?
Remember we used to go and play...
Oh yeah, that was Death in the Family, right?
No, both. Counter-Strike.
Oh.
This place where we used to play Counter-Strike, the owner of that shop said, "Oh, you read Batman comics?" I said, "Yes, I do.
I
Can
want
I borrow
to read
these two." Sure, borrow
read.
Death in the Family. And like an idiot, I let him borrow my Death in the Family trade paperback, which I've had since the 80s, and my Killing Joke Tate Parag, which I also had from the 80s, and then I never saw them again.
And he flew away. He closed shop and he ran away because he was like, I'll sell these in the next 20 years and I'll cover up for all the work that I'm doing. And the Master Sahib was left there confounded. But let's go to the era that we as readers hated the most and did not enjoy the most.
Which way? The 90s?
The 90s, yeah.
Yeah.
Even though there are like certain comics that I still enjoy, like Zero
yeah.
Hour and whatnot.
Yeah, 90s. I don't know. I mean, even Zero Hour had a lot of criticism.
Yeah,
the 90s was a troublesome time for comics.
The bad art and just grim. Blah,
Personally,
blah.
I mean, I too am not a big fan of the 90s. Many people our generation maybe aren't. Maybe the new generation is.
Yeah.
But we did have one thing. One of the another game changer in the Batman mythos was The Dark Knight Falls.
Yeah. So Superman was getting boring. People, the sales were going down, so they decided to kill Superman off. When that happened, when so many comics were sold of a comic which was like doing bad.
I mean, people who did not even know nothing about comics, like, oh, Superman's dead! And this is before the internet.
Exactly.
I mean, mass use of internet.
And then, so they were like, wow, let's kill Wonder Woman. And then they got rid of Wonder Woman. They didn't kill her, but she retired from the Wonder Woman thing. Artemis became Wonder Woman.
Oh, yeah. That was also from just that time. So
in 1 year, Green Arrow died, Superman died, Hal Jordan went bad, and
Batman got his back broken.
Yeah.
You know,
So
and Wonder Woman, she didn't just retire. She actually retired and then put on like biker jacket and yoga pants something and went out and became a badass. So yeah, the 90s were terrible.
So going back to the Dark Knight.
The Dark Knight Falls, on the other hand, it was an interesting comic.
It was written better than The World Without Superman. And
there are little facts about The Dark Knight Returns, though. Yeah. So what basic premise, if people haven't read, is without giving spoilers, is simply that there is a character, a new villain was introduced called Bane.
Yeah.
Right, and all present day iterations, even in the comics, all present day iterations of the Bane are nothing like his original character. He was not just a big dumbfounded wrestler as they did in the one of those cheesy Batman movies.
And he was not an anti-hero in which he was like, oh my god, we feel for him, but he's a bad man, but we feel for him. So yeah, nothing like that. He was a villain, man.
He was actually a genius. That's what he was. His thing was that he was bronze and brains rolled into one. He was more genius than Batman, and he was more he was a better fighter than Batman as well. We're talking about Bruce Wayne, right?
Yeah.
So here's the thing with this. So what he does is, first and foremost, he just blows up Arkham Asylum and he has every villain come out and puts Batman to the test. But here's the little thing that they would not know who Bane really was.
He was what do you mean?
Bane was actually literally a character from the pulp era known as Doc Savage.
Oh.
Bane was Doc Savage. He take out a mask, he looks like Doc Savage. Like Doc Savage, he had this team to himself, 4 people with distinct abilities. And that's what the writers said. They wanted to do an anti-Doc Savage because they always thought Doc can beat the hell out of Batman.
Okay.
So that's what they did.
But then he had like a different backstory and everything. Nothing like Doc Savage.
Oh, the backstory?
Yeah.
No.
The backstory was different.
No. It was very similar. Doc Savage grew up with various expertise and training and government and programs and being trained by different people. Bane did the same, but in prison and against his will.
So yeah, Bane comes out. He makes sure that Batman has this one hell of a night in which he's going after supervillain after supervillain, and then when he's like shit tired and everything. But there's like a lot, like the Venom storyline comes before that. So there's a lot into play.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot into play. It was like unlike Superman's Death of Superman, it was a very well thought event.
Right.
In which there were scenes laid out.
With Doomsday just came out of nowhere. There was
that was just one.
But with this,
story.
They, like earlier on, there was a little the Legends of the Dark Knight series. It introduced this drug called Venom. So they kind of used that, and they kind of used different things. And it was good. It was good, and it also, and again, also in the comic, Batman gets replaced for a while because his back gets broken.
Yeah.
So that replacement even is not something that just came in this storyline.
He was there
earlier as a character, an anti-hero called Azrael.
Jean-Paul Valley.
and so he took up the mantle of the Bat. So Nightfall, and I've seen a couple of reprint trades of those in the market here these days.
Yeah,
so
you have them at
get
Liberty
your
Books.
yeah. So get your hands on it.
Really good, man. It was good. And then Batman came back. Came back stronger. And then came like a really cool event called in which
No Man's Land?
Yeah, No Man's Land, in which the earthquake happened.
Yes.
It was a very long event. It was a very boorish, dark tone and whatnot.
Right.
I really did not enjoy it, but it was like if you compare it with other stories from the 90s, other comic
This
book
was
heroes.
after the 90s.
This
Late 90s,
late
early
90s,
2000s? No?
Late 90s,
All right.
yeah.
But what's interesting with the No Man's Land was what happened with No Man's Land is that Gotham City
Cataclysm,
got turned into No Man's Land, and the government was not allowed to go in. And what was interesting, how things are happening, and sometimes there's no explanation why. I mean, for example, if something happens in Manhattan, why wouldn't the Avengers just fly over just because someone else's title? So they actually explained that the government actually sanctioned the Justice League not to.
And but Superman does come. He does go like, fuck this sanction, I'm going in. But when he goes there, he notices how helpless he is. And Batman tells him, see, I told you. And he's like, okay, I understand. But and the best thing about this event was that Batman doesn't save the day. Bruce Wayne saves the day!
And that literally, I kind of skipped a whole bunch of No Man's Land, but the last episode was amazing because you have Lex Luthor taking advantage of this and trying to take over Gotham, and it's basically a corporate maneuvering and business dealings, and it's actually Bruce Wayne who saves the day, not Batman. That was very interesting.
It was cool. So yeah, then this happened. Then we went into the 2000s, which resurrected comics. At least for us, we were like enjoying reading it, following it. And there was a bunch of events which I liked. I think we didn't go over the Long Halloween and
the Long Halloween,
which was good.
That was
I
nice,
liked
it. Tim Sale
and the Devil's Advocate, in which Joker is framed for murder, and it's a stupid idea. Why, man? Let's just get rid of Joker now. But no, I am gonna make sure that he's framed for the crimes that he has done, for the thousands that he has killed, not for this one kill.
Well, every time the Joker kills, the blood is on Batman's hands.
Of course.
Seriously, Batman's a wuss.
Yeah, kill Batman.
No. Batman, cool storylines. But just a point. I will like to say one thing though, as much as people disagree. I think Superman is more hardcore and edgy than Batman. At least he puts him in the Phantom Zone. I mean, that's brutal, man. You've just put away someone for life, and it's eternal damnation life. It's literally like a hell in which you're just stuck there as a ghost forever and ever, seeing everything happening around you, but you can't do nothing about it. That's brutal, man. And then they don't come out and cross crimes like they do from Arkham Asylum.
Okay, so since we've done that, I think everybody knows Batman. Let's stop talking about events in chronological order. Tell me your favorite Batman story. It could be anything. It could be Batman coming in another story or whatever.
Actually, my favorite Batman story or appearance, whatever, is a comic called Wonder Woman Hakitia.
Oh.
And it's literally my best.
But that would be your favorite Wonder Woman story.
No, there are other favorite Wonder Woman stories, but this is
my
favorite.
I want a story in which Batman shines.
You said I'm sorry, my favorite Batman story is one in which he doesn't shine.
Okay.
It's the one in which he gets beaten up.
Fair enough.
And by Wonder Woman, and I love the cover. So there you have, and the cover has Batman on it, by the way. It has literally his Batman on it with his face being put down on the ground, and it has Wonder Woman's heel on his head.
Yeah. Well, I think one of my favorite Batman stories would be the Rock of Ages storyline from Justice League, the Grant Morrison run, in which it was, if you think about it, it was like Final Crisis done 20 years ago, in which Darkseid comes, takes over Earth.
That's true.
And
that's true.
everybody's down and out. Flash, Green Arrow, Superman. Superman at that time was divided into two. He had that electricity power and whatnot.
Oh, this was during that era?
This was during that era. And come to think of it, this ends that way too, in which Batman takes out a gun to shoot Darkseid, and he shoots him with a bullet. And on top of that bullet is riding the Atom, which
Oh yeah, now I remember.
Which-
That's true. That's true. But see, here's another thing. Every now and then they do something, and somebody goes, "Whoa, how
Yeah.
cool!" But it's all recycled. And by the way, that's not the first time Batman has shot in continuity. I mean,
Yeah.
and killed an alien. Cosmic Odyssey.
Yeah, Batman has no. And then if you start talking about post Comic Code Authority Batman, he has no issues killing aliens because
Yeah, by
they're
the
not
way,
human.
that's an interesting point. Batman actually has no problems killing
It's
Darkseid,
humans.
New Gods,
Yeah, it's humans. He has
because I
issues
remember
killing.
in the Cosmic Odyssey, he just pulls this big laser beam gun and shoots this hunger dog. They call it the Darkseid Parademon.
Parademons.
No, yeah, well, one of them. Some Darkseid minion. He just shoots him right there, point blank on his chest, and there's a big gaping hole, and he dies. And it's just an afterthought. And then it goes away, walks away, and it wasn't even controversial at that time because it was just understood. Batman only has a problem killing people. He has no problem killing aliens.
So, any favorite Batman moments? Like a panel that you saw and you're like, oh man, that's so cool.
Yeah, actually, come to think of it, a Cosmic Odyssey in which he just picks up a gun and shoots an alien.
Yeah, I think my favorite would be, again, going back to Justice League. Batman wasn't even in that comic panel in which the White Martians have they're holding the whole of the Justice League, and they're like, we have everyone now, we will destroy you. And Superman says, yeah, you have us, but you don't have Batman. And he looks at him, he's like, Batman, he's just a man. And then Superman smiles and Batman comes in and kicks the White Martian's ass. So I think that was like, Batman has had his cool moments, but then there are moments that I hated Batman.
Well, can I tell you another moment I like?
Yeah.
Okay, now here's another thing, because obviously how we see things now are because of how they're being written now. One of my favorite Batman fights of all time has actually been in which he fights Rick Flag from Suicide Squad. This is during the Justice League International era.
Yeah.
There's a crossover between that and Suicide Squad, and they actually show that Rick Flag, which I know most people hate because of the movie, Rick Flag literally fought him to a standstill. It was such a brutal fight that Batman even lost his cool a little, and they fought. Eventually, Rick Flag just toppled down, but the fact that he just held on and he one-on-one fought Batman for more than 4 pages was pretty crazy. It's just like how people think Deathstroke is how he is now, but Deathstroke was Beast Boy came close to beating him up one-on-one.
Yeah, back in the days. So yeah, I know. And another cool moment from the Justice League International days in which they have to go to this Middle Eastern country, and they're like, how will we get Batman through airport security? And he's like, it's fine, I'm gonna dress up as Bruce Wayne. And they're like, oh my god, the mask, the makeup, it's so real, you actually look like Bruce Wayne.
Another cool moment from the Justice League International era of Batman is when
I think that era was like full of cool moments.
Batman comes in and Guy Gardner is like, all right, Bats, fine, you've been biting on my chops all this time, and here, hold my ring, Beetle, I'll show you. And Batman just gives him one punch and he's unconscious, totally out, right? And then everybody's like, one punch, and for 2-3 years everybody keeps mentioning that event. Do you remember that one punch? And it had a big story impact, because what happened then is when Guy Gardner woke up, his personality had changed. He became this really nice guy for a while, he's polite and stuff.
Yeah, so Batman like that, and moments that I liked it when Batman got ripped a new one.
Oh, I always like those moments. I like any comic in which Batman gets beaten up.
One of them was the Green Lantern Rebirth, in which Batman always has this issue with Hal Jordan. He doesn't like him, and we actually find out why he doesn't like Hal Jordan, because Hal Jordan says, what is someone to a man who has no fear? And Batman's power is to instill fear. It's like, so he hates him because he's not afraid of him. Because even like other superheroes like afraid of Batman. Oh my god!
I'll tell you another one of my Batman favorite storylines is it was also in a Justice League. It was called, well, actually 2 of them. One was in Justice League and one was in Superman Action Comics. Justice League one was called Crisis of Conscience, in which Batman regains his memory about the fact that the Justice League wiped his brain memories out. So that was an interesting one. and readers should, listeners should look that up. The other one is a Superman comic called Sacrifice, in which Superman beats the hell out of the Brainiac and then Lex Luthor and whatnot, and and beats him up pretty bad. And then later on, he comes back and he sees Batman all there in life support, and his neck has got his fingerprints on him, and because he actually beat up Batman instead, somebody's controlling his mind.
I remember from the Crisis of Conscience comic, his whole issue was like, give me back my 15 minutes, give me back my 15 minutes that you stole from me.
PTI.
And Hawkman and Hawkman actually draws his mace and he says, how about I give you 15 minutes you will never forget. And then he's like, okay, fine.
Alright guys, so in the end, I think we got appreciation for Batman was. We showed you what was good about him, and then we let out some. By the end, we let out some of our frustrations as well, maybe.
Yeah, but we can't love everyone now, can we?
Right. We can't love everyone all the time.
We can't love
there's
everyone
certain
all the
parts
time.
and errors that we love about him, and certain ones that we don't. And in my opinion, I've always actually come to now that we think about it, and even with the moments we shared, I think I've liked him more when he's not in Batman comics.
Yeah, because in Batman comics he has to be the man, as in nobody can do him wrong or anything. But in other comics he can always sometimes come on top and sometimes not. So which is fine, which defines his humanity, his human side. If he was like the all-knowing and all-defeating, then he shouldn't be a man.
Well, with that note, I will say there was a storyline in which he did become all-knowing.
In the current one,
When he actually literally became a god. He got Megaton's chair. So, all right. So that's Batman.
Yeah. So that's Batman, and thanks for joining us on this journey, all Batman. And we will see you next week with
Allah Hafiz.
Bye bye.